Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Monday, November 21st, 2016. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, where we bring you today's top stories translated into English every weeknight. The Minister of Justice commented today on the vetting law, declaring that reviewing the law in Constitutional Court has delayed the judicial reform. During his reporting at the Parliamentary Integration Commission, the minister asked for the court to provide its opinion on the law as soon as possible. The minister also explained the problems that can arise from failing to implement the judicial reform. According to the minister, implementing the judicial reform needs political willingness and the preceding implementation of the vetting law. The Minister of Justice thinks that the amendments to the criminal code concerning punishments and including amnesty should also be part of the judicial reform. He announced that work for an amnesty to be made at the end of the year has already begun. The minister argued that alternative punishments should be applied in an effort to solve the issue of prison overcrowding. The Minister of Health reported on the 2017 budget at the Parliamentary Health Commission today, where he faced accusations regarding free health care service. The opposition and the Socialist Movement for Integration MPs voiced their suspicions about the free health care services and invited the minister to admit it was a failure. The vice chairman of the Socialist Movement for Integration, a former Minister of Health, declared that he has never believed in the promise of free health care and was also critical about the health sector investments. The SMI's vice chairman spoke out against reducing investments in the health sector. The Democrat MP, Albana Vokshi, called on the Minister of Health to admit the failure of free health care services. The Ministry of Health will have a budget that is 3% higher than it was in 2016, calculated at 47.3 billion lek for the 2017 budget. Meanwhile, this morning, a group of young people were waiting for the minister outside the Parliament building. They were holding placards with statements against the minister, and they threw eggs and tomatoes at his vehicle. The Parliamentary Economic Commission discussed the public debt today, sparking a great deal of debate between the majority and opposition members. The Minister of Finance declared that the government's goal is to decrease the public debt level, but the opposition members accused the minister of providing false numbers about the public debt level and of not realizing any planned investments. The opposition criticized the government of increasing the public debt, with the former Minister of Finance, Democrat MP Edmund Spaho, declaring that Albania is last in the region for collecting revenue. In response to the critique, the Minister of Finance argued that the situation is the way it is because of debts the previous government left. The current public debt level is at 71.8%, but is predicted to reduce to 69.1% next year. The majority's candidate won the elections for mayor of Kolonje with about 2,000 votes more than the opposition's candidate. Prime Minister Rama feels the majority's victory is an obligation to do more for the community. According to the Prime Minister, the government is committed to moving forward with the reform and promised more development projects for Kolonje. Speaking after the meeting of the Socialist Party parliamentary group, the Prime Minister said that the government has planned more investments for Kolonje. He also stated that the victory of the majority's candidate in Kolonje is a clear message to the opposition and Democratic Party, whom he states should reflect and start to be more present than in recent years. When the victory is so big, it becomes a considerable debt, and we will do our best to repay the debt to Kolonje's citizens, realizing more reforms, working harder, and paying more attention to the area, making more investments. Even though I am doubtful, I hope the Democratic Party reads this message as an obligation to reflect regarding its role in the recent 3 years. The country does not have an opposition, declared the Prime Minister. The Bureau of Parliament decided, with only the Socialist Party's votes, to exclude the chairman of the Democratic Party parliamentary group, MP Paloka, from Parliament for 5 days. The decision for Mr. Paloka's exclusion comes after last Thursday's incident in the plenary session where the Democrat MP pushed the Minister of Health in an effort to remove him from the podium. The vice chairman of Democratic Party commented on the Bureau's decision, declaring that it was the expected outcome. This is not a surprise. The Bureau's decision was expected, as it always decides in favor of the Socialist Party. In this way, they are removing the opposition's freedom of speech in Parliament. But we will continue to oppose in Parliament. We will not change our stance, regardless of the majority's efforts to remove our freedom of speech, declared the Democratic Party's vice chairman. Socialist MP Talant Bala stated that the decision of the Bureau is fair because the opposition always violates parliamentary regulations, hampering the normal development of plenary sessions. The European Commission, in response to the request by Albania's Ministry of Integration for an opinion from the EU, considers the integrated waste management law amendments to be suitable, taking into account the specific situation of Albania in the field of waste management and lack of proper waste management infrastructure in the country. We believe that the amendments to the law on integrated waste management are well adapted and suitable for Albania at this moment in time. In the midterm perspective, if Albania makes tangible progress on its path to accession, Albania will have to adjust its legislative system in such a way that there will be no contradictions to the requirements of EC regulation. This would only have a clarifying effect because directly applicable EU regulations automatically derogate any existing national laws that contradict them. Under EC's regulation and on shipments of waste, Albania could prohibit the import of any type of waste, hazardous or non-hazardous, for a disposal operation into Albania on the basis of any of the grounds listed in Article 11 once it is an EU member state, reads the European Commission's response. The government has predicted an 11.6 billion lek fund for the Ministry of Urban Development. At the Parliamentary Commission of Productive Activity, the Minister of Urban Development reported on the budget of the ministry she leads. The minister highlighted the housing program, saying, "We have predicted a budget of 560 million lek, out of which 120 million lek will be used to reconstruct 180 Roma and Egyptian community houses. The remaining part, 140 million lek, will be allocated for rehabilitating the existing unused buildings, which can be used to shelter the needy," said the Minister of Urban Development. However, the opposition members raised their concern regarding the reduction of the budget level for housing. The opposition MPs declared that the 2017 budget is 441 million lek less than the 2016 budget, or 25% less. The opposition members also expressed their concern about what they called the discrimination of city halls headed by left-wing mayors. In response, the minister replied that this year, for the first time in 26 years, the government allocated 560 million lek just for City Hall's development plans. The minister also commented on the 400 areas in Albania identified as informal, declaring that the legalization process for them will finish by 2017. According to the minister, around 130 million lek is predicted to be used for drafting general local plans in the 7 new city halls. That's all for our English edition this evening. Please join us again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. My name is Mari, and on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.